Yeah. Next to them's different. People watch it. Now the city hall. Yeah, that's better. We've been asking. He's announced it. And it's just a meeting. Oh, sure.
So it was a one.
Okay, it's 7 o'clock, so let's pull the meeting together. We've already done the flag salute, so we're going to move right on into the agenda. I think you're
Yeah, there's a little bit too Awesome. Okay, before we move on with the regular agenda, like normals, counselors, is there any consent agenda topics you would like pulled out for regular discussion?
Question for absolutely.
Yeah. Got it. Anything else besides item F? Okay, and since that's a public works, we will throw that into the discussion underneath the public works topic, if that's okay.
Just a note, we were not able to get that finalized. They sent back some more conditions, so we're going to pull that off the consent agenda anyway, because it's not ready to go yet.
All right, do you still want us to have a discussion on it, or is that
So
something?
we can either that, or we can wait until we do suspect it'll be ready for next meeting.
Is it fine to pull it off the agenda, or you want
The
to?
only thing I had was, we talked at one meeting about Verizon did not have a generator. And we wanted to know if we've got a generator in this next lease agreement.
Yes, I believe that there is the backup power.
That's all I wanted to double check.
Okay, is there any worry to just pull that off the consent agenda then?
I like to wait until it's not ready.
Any other topics to pull off consent agenda? Sure. James, awesome. Then we will go ahead and move on. This agenda item for regular. Oh, it's gonna be weird.
I think it's the microphones. Did you have the microphones on? Yeah, I'm sorry, wait, can you turn them
You
on?
want mine anymore?
I'm getting
Tired of
feedback.
hearing us.
Yeah. Speak loud. You guys hear me back there?
Still doing
Good.
it.
That's still going to be in. Okay, I'm just going to ignore it. Okay, the first one is we do have two calendar of ordinances. We have A, ordinance number 372021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 2.11 city administrator to create a position of city administrator.
I make a motion to read by title only for first reading.
Make a motion. I second that motion.
All right, hold on.
Hands up.
I'm sorry, but Emily is online and there was some change to the ordinance, so
okay.
you might want to talk with her for.
Sure.
Okay.
Withdraw the motion.
Hi,
Motion withdrawn. Let's go ahead and talk to Emily first. Emily, do you want to walk us through that?
sure. Just the change that was made or the entire ordinance?
Let's start with the change.
Okay, so the change that was made today was to sort of deal with the interim period before any administrator is hired, which is just, from now until, if you pass the ordinance, then the city administrator position is created. And then once eventually the position will be filled. But between now and then, we added in section 3 here of the ordinance, the sort of the last 2/3 of that. So this ordinance shall be effective from and after 30 days following its adoption by the city council, except, and then that deals with the interim period before the administrator takes the position.
So basically, so somebody is doing the work, correct?
Exactly. Sort of, it maintains the status quo, even though the code will be changed. it's unlikely that you'll get an administrator in to start the job in the next 30 days.
I would agree with that.
Thank you.
And so if you want to pass this or read it tonight by title only, then that section must be read fully to do that.
And you're saying it's section 3 that needs to be read?
Correct.
Is there any objection from city council then to read by motion title only with the inclusion of also reading section 3?
No objection.
Okay, is that okay, Emily? We'll go ahead and move forward with that.
Yep.
Okay, then once again, back to ordinance number 373-2021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 2.11, city administrator to create the position of city administrator.
Motion to read by title only along with section 3 for first reading.
Second that.
Okay, ordinance number 373-2021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 2.11, city administrator to create the position of city administrator. And section 3 states that this ordinance shall be effective from and after 30 days following its adoption by the city council, except that in the absence of a city administrator or city administrator pro tem, the department head and city recorder shall have the authority to continue performing their duties, including those duties delegated by the city administrator in this ordinance.
Motion to read by title only for second reading along with section 3.
I'll second it.
Okay, ordinance number 373-2021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code and adding chapter 2.11, city administrator to create the position of city administrator. Section 3 states this ordinance shall be effective from and after 30 days following its adoption by the city council, except that in the absence of a city administrator or city administrator pro tem, the department heads and city recorder shall have the authority to continue performing their duties, including those duties delegated to the city administrator in this ordinance.
Motion to adopt the ordinance.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye. Okay, ordinance passes unanimously. Number B, I don't think we have any changes on this one. Ordinance number 374-2021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code, chapter 2.35, planning commission membership.
Make a motion to read by title only for the first reading for ordinance number 374-2021.
Second that.
Ordinance number 374-2021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code, chapter 2.35, planning commission membership.
Motion to read by title only for second reading.
Second.
Ordinance number 374-2021, an ordinance amending the Hubbard Municipal Code, chapter 2.35, planning commission membership.
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Okay, motion. Oh, you got a second?
Yeah,
Sorry.
you were quick. I'll second it.
There we go. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Because so, my bad, slap me on the wrist. Ordinance passes unanimously. Okay, next one, appointment planning commission members. One position is available. Two candidates, Crystal Rosticel and Phil Cartel. I will recuse myself from the discussion between you three on this one, as Crystal is obviously related to me. And I'll hand it over then to James. Go ahead, Nikki.
I was just gonna say, and Emily can speak up, but the ordinance is not in effect until 30 days after. So what you just, so currently you have an inside position available. And until the 30 days is up with the ordinance, you wouldn't be able to do another outside one until those 30 days are up.
So 30 more days out. So the question then to this council here is, you do have an internal city candidate, if you guys want to debate it or have a discussion on it, or we could wait till next month when the ordinance passes to allow the second candidate to be eligible. And again, I'll recuse myself from the discussion.
I would think in fairness that we wait until next month until the 30 days goes.
Robert, what's your thoughts?
I think that's fair. That way they both can have a shot.
Okay,
Otherwise, we only have one candidate, really.
we're gonna postpone this till next month, and the 30 days is up.
Okay, so there was a consensus to postpone it until next month to appoint to the position.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Sounds good.
Moving right along, this continued discussion regarding the use of funds from the Community Prosperity Initiative Program.
Okay. So you guys asked the last meeting about when we were due for, update. And so I gave you a little bit of history there in the memo. The city proposed the urban growth boundary expansion for residential land and conducted a buildable land inventory and housing needs analysis to identify residential land needs in 2009. And so that's what we would be talking about or looking at in this next update. And then as well as an urban growth boundary expansion. And then I also copied a memo that was presented back in 2019 to you from Renata from the Mid-Willamette Council of Governments about the 20-year supply of land. And then I just copied what I had in the last month's packet, which was an update of the cost to do that kind of thing.
The bottom line was $40,000, right,
For the two.
for the two.
And total that we have from the Prosperity Initiative Program is
45,000.
There are a couple more options. We also were talking at the time about 2 sidewalk projects. We've got the estimates for both of them. The first one is finishing the G Street sidewalk project, which would encompass the upgrades that Union Pacific wants us to do. And to do 100 foot of sidewalk with the extended crossing for Union Pacific, we're talking about $60,000.
So an additional 15 from the city coffers on top of. the
Right.
costs.
And we do have some money for that sidewalk project there. I think we would be able to get it completed.
And that would take us all the way over the railroad
All the
tracks?
way over the railroad, connect Third Street to the existing sidewalk in front of Chevrolet. And then,
have we gotten the approval from Union Pacific as far as the plans and everything?
well, we haven't really been pushing it because of the cost. So if that's one of the things you decide to do with the money, then we'll go ahead and contact Union Pacific and get that ball rolling again.
Just another side note on that too. So they actually, Union Pacific is the one that provided the part of that quote, which is the part that includes the actual crossing improvements. And they did that based on that they wouldn't be granting any variances for the development of that. So their quote should be pretty accurate as far as that piece of it. So.
Okay, and that would give us then a second full sidewalk across the railroad tracks from 4th Street to 3rd Street.
No, just the one.
Well, we have the one.
Yeah.
Other than
Or,
the one D.
Which right now, we've only got one for anyone in a wheelchair or disability and walking of any sort to be able to cross those road tracks.
So we have 2 really good proposals before us.
Well, there's a third. The other option for sidewalks is presently we're trying to get a grant to do 8th Street between 5th and 3rd with sidewalks on the north side. So the other thought was to finish or redo the sidewalk that runs down 3rd Street from A to D. And that would be about $42,000. Oh, $48,000.
My 2 cents is I would really like to see the sidewalk along G Street, but that's my 2 cents. We have a full council here to talk about it. We have a post office down there. We have a convenience store down there. I see kids walking there. I see elderly walking there.
I see handicap in their wheelchair going across.
That's my 2 cents. I'd rather see infrastructure improvement put in for another plan.
I agree. I'm definitely for the G Street.
Sidewalk. James, what is your thoughts?
Because I mean, I've always said that that's been my pet peeve, is that sidewalk, but I've looked at it as, it's such a safety issue. I don't know why I would have thought there would have been some sort of assistance to get that done. Somebody, whether it's handicap accessibility or something around that. I don't want to, I mean, I'd hate to commit funds if we could get that from somewhere else.
I don't know if nobody knows about any.
There's not a lot of time for people to, as we know, to look.
Well, I'm assuming we have time to still spend the funds, do we not? Okay, so there's no rush. You can spend a month to see if there's additional funding resources out there that might be able to help. I don't know, Melinda's pretty busy, I'm not sure.
Right, that's just it. I mean, it would be, us having to look.
What's your thoughts, Robert?
On the back of my mind, everybody knows I'm all about sidewalks. I prefer the G Street project, but I'm also trying to wrap my head around the urban growth boundary information.
Can I inject something about the urban growth boundary?
Go ahead.
With the big parcel south of town, the Bronick property in play, that only pieces that are left within the urban growth boundaries at this point are Dunn Road. Now, the problem with Dunn Road is there are small hobby type farms that are between 2 and 7 acres. It would take a developer a large amount of money to buy all those people out. So in my opinion, I don't see anything happening down there for a very long time. And I know for a fact I had a friend that owned that big barn down the Dunn Road, and which sat on 2.5 acres. He thought about putting in houses there, but it would have required him to put in a pump station. So whatever developer starts it out is going to have a very large bill up front because you're going to have to put the infrastructure. That being said, I have had people call me with interest of getting family lands inside the urban growth boundaries on both the north side of town and the south side of town. That process probably will take 3 to 5 years to complete. So if we're comfortable sitting where we're sitting now, we wait. If we're looking for some expansion in the near future, and that would be within 3 to 5 years, we need to get the ball rolling on the comprehensive plan.
But what was that property that was off of, is it off of J Street?
Yeah, that's what he's talking about.
Okay. Okay.
That's the only one on the books right now. Allowed in, but we don't have a lot of other zoned commercial multifamily. We don't have any multifamily.
No, but that is proposed in the Bronick property. Expansion and stuff we're looking at right now.
And then the amount of commercial general that we have.
Don't have any, or very little.
So Vicki, what would be the benefit of using some or all the funds for the urban growth information that you provided? How would that help the city?
Well, the city is required to have a plan and you have to have a 20-year supply. So at some point, the city will have to do this.
Mhm.
So you have the funds now. It's just an option or you kick the can down the road and try to find the funds later or budget.
Mhm.
Or potential, hope that a grant comes up that we would, get to go through the process. The one that we did before, we had a grant through the COG.
Okay.
But
Is this type of information something that would be needed for applying for grants or applying for some sort of program that the city would be beneficiary of?
That would be denied if we don't have the 20-year plan up to date.
I can't answer that question. That is more of, what would happen if the city didn't have the 20-year? I don't know. I mean, that is definitely a Renata question, because we haven't had that, so I don't know.
And we're only as current as 2008,
2009 was the last study that was done.
so we're 11, 12 years behind. So we're still 8 years good.
That's what we look at.
We still got that can 8 years to kick down the road.
Seeing it kick down the road, my fear, it seems like we spend a lot of money on reports. We do wastewater treatment, master water plan, this plan, that plan, lots of studies. Lots of taxes.
And I think having something visible like the G Street,
And we do like
the citizens would look at that and go, okay, something's
we
being
like
done.
to show that we've done something with our tax money.
Whether it's the pavement that we did on 7th Street, 5th Street, those are really nice. Of course, the sidewalks were from the grant, but the G Street's improvement, still a grant, but those got done. The amenities, the little trash receptacles that look better than just a little trash can that in the city park. I mean, it's little things. And
I thought we were already just doing from the railroad to 3rd Street.
We were doing from Third Street to the railroad right of way, which is, I believe, 52 feet. And from there, we would have to get permission from the railroad to cross the property. That's already been, project's already been awarded. What we're trying to do now is get the telephone pole on the corner, replaced or moved, yes, relocated. So, we don't have to jog around it for the ADA route.
So that part's already happening. Which I would love to see the whole thing done, but we know that's happening. And I make a good point about A Street. We got parks over there that people walk down. Walk down to the Paula. There's gonna be some more businesses opening up. So I can see that aspect of it too. Making the best bang for our buck to get what we did.
I'm not sure that the current G Street plan though only has us going to the right of way, which then dumps the sidewalk off in the grass or whatever's coming there.
Whatever, or asphalt walkway we've got there now is going to stay.
Yeah, well, it's some of it asphalt.
But the $60,000 estimate that you're providing, that would take us all the way from 3rd Street to the existing sidewalk by Hubbard Chevrolet's service center.
That is correct.
Okay. I'd like the money used for that. And I think that we need to try to budget for the urban growth boundary, because I can see that becoming an issue for next year.
And we could start putting reserve funds on the side, I guess, for the next 4 or 5 years.
Because I think that that's gonna, I guess, if we don't keep them current, even though there might not be current properties available to us, but correct. We need to be current something.
It's a silly question, and maybe it's something that could be taken offline later, but we have like different alleyways, I wouldn't call them alleyways, but streets that were never developed or built.
Right.
Is that property able to be zoned and sold off to developers to raise funds for projects such as these studies?
Good question. I don't know.
Because I mean, I don't ever see us developing some of those streets. The housing, the lots themselves look big enough to accommodate the latest housing footprints. just seems like a way for the city to maybe sell off some reserve or underutilized property and maybe bring up funds to be able to do some of these studies. Or put in more sidewalks.
It's something to look into. I'll see what I can do.
Is that something council would be interested in seeing?
I'd be curious to find out.
Could you do that? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so I think the discussion that, at least from the consensus I'm hearing from the city council, minus James, I don't think I've seen you nod yet.
They're all good projects to me, so I would have no problem supporting any of them.
And Michelle, I'm with Robert. I would like to see the G Street one done. I'd like to see a second crosswalk across the railroad tracks. Okay, so I guess, Mike, what we're asking for is if you can move forward on that one.
Okay, we'll do it.
Okay, moving on down, mayor or council's presentations. Robert, do you have anything?
Not yet. I will probably next month.
Okay. James, anything? Chuck?
Nothing.
Okay, the only thing I've got is I do want to thank the fire department and the police department for coming out on National Night Out. It was a blast to see you all. It was fun to be able to barbecue for you all. And I'm glad no one got hurt anywhere that I could tell. It was just a nice evening, getting a chance to see a lot of faces I've not yet met actually on the fire department. So I was excited to see all the new faces there, a lot of excitement. And of course, our police department. Just thank you, Chief Rash, for that. And thank Molly for getting that coordinated as well. It was great. I enjoyed it. And we got to see Michelle later in the evening. Okay,
Bring your firefighter kid to school birthday or something. They're young.
they already on.
They're just getting old. Yeah, that is true.
Okay, we have nothing else. Let's move on to staff reports and we'll start with the police department.
So, Officer Mark White has graduated from the basic academy. He's been in Bradmore there. He told me he came in fourth place and everything. So, no Victory Award, no top shooter, but he did.
5 minute speech.
No? I think he's done.
Anything less than first is last.
Officer Hallman's completed his 18-month probation.
Congratulations.
So it was nice to have 4 neighborhood association, or not association, not National Night Out. I ate too much. I only planned on eating in one place and ended up at 3. So
Easy to do.
they were shutting down the ice cream, which I wanted to really get to. So, next year my plan is to contact somebody on the east side of 99. And I'm thinking they'd start with the over 55 because they got the community room there. Because we haven't had anything on that side. We've had 4 or several on the one side. So that's my goal next year is to get somebody who wants to host on that side at least. So, I don't know what's going on in the city of Woodburn's. It's August 21st. This thing they're planning on Legion Park. I haven't heard from Lieutenant Milliken. I called over there, but he's in Florida in training. So I don't know if we'll be participating in that or not on August 21st. I haven't had a follow-up. We will be participating in National Night Out September 1st at the schools. We didn't get to do that last year. That's always a good event for us.
Back to school, right?
Back to school.
Yes.
Back to start. And then Rocky came in and talked to me and he's got the holiday parade December 10th. So I just threw that on there to get, so we'll assist with that. So does anybody have any questions about this one?
I have none, Chief. Robert?
Yeah, no questions.
Michelle?
None.
James?
Community Kids Fest is happening. The person who's in charge of it's Erwin Brown from Woodburn.
What's the Kids Fest?
That's part of the community
Connection.
connections day.
Oh, okay, he didn't tell me that part. He just asked if we want to be part of the first responder group. And I said yes.
They're expecting 25 to 30 booths out there from various organizations. Kids get a free backpack. The first like couple hundred kids get a free backpack, and then various stations to kind of promote emergency services.
Yeah, he didn't ask me that or tell me that information, so, cool. I think that day is on the one of the day shifts, so I'll probably.
All right, if there's no other questions for Chief Rush, let's move on to the fire department.
Mayor and councilors, just report that the Hubbard Fire District is working with the developer that's looking at that property on the southwest corner of the city. The fire district's role is to make sure we got good access and water supply. That's our jurisdiction, and the pre-plans look very good, and the city planner that works for the city of Hubbard here is very on it and making sure that all those needs are met, and we're engaged in that process as well. There's been examples of situations around, not in the city of Hubbard, but around the fire district here, where water supply and access weren't addressed, and really creates a lot of hazards for those communities and the fire department for getting access and protecting its structure. So I just I'm thankful that we are able to engage with that process, and we'll stay engaged throughout the whole interim.
Thank you. Any questions for Chief Budge?
So when is Amazon gonna buy you a truck that will reach their 5th story? That's not.
But we'll reach it. There.
That's gonna be a big building.
We'll be able to reach the top of it, but that's our max.
I bet.
Unless they go 10 stories and buy a bigger.
Guess they got a truck then, right?
You never know.
All right, moving. Vicky.
I have nothing to add to my report, but I do have a correction from last month on a item that was, agenda item that was added to the consent agenda. There's a scrivener's error. It was approval to move Steve Holloman from, it should be from step B to step C effective July 16th, 2021. And I just wanted to make sure that we got that correction in the minutes.
So we approved the step B. Is that what you said?
It said, it should have been from B to C. And
what did we
it was
approve?
stated as C to D.
So we got a bigger raise than planned.
Well, it didn't get, this was a, it was a typo.
Oh, okay.
I was wondering if that's the way you do it.
Julie, I promise I will get it to you on time this time. The newsletter. I've already started working on it.
Okay, thank you.
Got your residents. Any questions for Vicky?
No, was there anything we needed to do with that change, or? You just
No,
did it
that was a
this way?
scrivener's error.
Okay.
Then let's, go ahead.
One quick
No,
question, nobody's on vacation for the month of August?
I'm sorry, can't hear you.
Is anyone on vacation during the month of August from your department?
I'm thinking we're both there other than a day
Okay.
here or a day there. Or
Okay.
whatever. We don't have like weeks planned off.
Just checking.
We may next week. We may.
Okay, Public Works.
Okay, you got the report, in front of you. Do you have any questions at this point? I could read it all to you, but I think we don't want to do that.
The aeration basin A, how's that going?
That problem worked itself out Friday afternoon. We are back in business and everything is looking like it should.
It fixed itself?
Yeah, it did. And the story on that one is, we had a plug in the pipe and it wasn't allowing fluid from one pipe to the other. So we were working a valve that's at the bottom of the tank and the valve stem broke off in front of the bottom of the tank. So we ended up having to drain the tank to get the valve stem. And while we were there, we ran an auger into it from the outside of the tank inside, but still couldn't get the pipe unplugged. So Friday, amongst other things, I was gonna go from the inside of the tank to the outside. So I drug all the equipment out on the bridge and was getting ready to do that about the time that pipe let go, and all I needed to do after that was put the equipment back away. So, yeah, we're good to go, and everything's working fine the way it should. And life is good up at the wastewater plant right now.
Where the sludge comes in from?
No, that's
City House.
the pipe that was plugged is what we call the return line. It brings the fluid from one of the aeration basins back into the clarifier where it allows it to settle out. And then we take the sludge, which is the stuff that we're talking about, off the bottom and put it back into the tanks, and the clean water goes out to the creek.
We're gonna have to ask our residents to change their diet.
Nope.
Oh. Any additional questions for Mike?
No. Appreciate it.
Michelle?
Nothing for me.
All right, and let's move on. A discussion on the Centennial Park hedge replacement project, which we got some details in Mike's report.
Want me to say something about it?
Sounds like things are going well, so.
Okay. I guess I just need some more information too. For instance, if you make a decision on what coach you want to go with, and because we don't have all of the funds, but I think we have 5,000. And I just kind of wondered if this is something the city can make up the difference to get the fence in.
I was gonna say too, so they've actually raised as of today $5,000. And I do have some funds in our park improvement fund that we could put towards this project as well, so we can get it actually completed, this construction season. I know Mike's got plans already to start moving that hedge, get that out of the way. And so I was just gonna put that out there too, that I do have, I know Linda got some estimates. The one that she got that was the low one was just over 7,000. It was $7,042. So with their 5,000, if I can use the park improvement funds for capital outlay for the extra $2,042, then the project can move
Using
forward.
those funds?
Pardon?
Is there anything that would prevent us from using those funds?
No, I mean, I
Or
just
designated
like,
for park improvements?
yes, yeah, that is strictly for park improvement projects.
Is the low bid the correct bid, or do we need to make sure?
It is.
Adjust that up?
We received 2 bids on that. The first one was, you can correct me if I'm wrong, about 11,500. And the lower bid one we're looking at now was 7,100, which is easy round.
I got a high and a low, and I tried to get one in the middle. But it was going to take, possibly, if that was the middle quote, they were gonna have to come out in the area, which was 4 weeks out. And then another guy had to come out from the company to look at it, and that's 10 weeks out. And I thought, oh, I don't know about that. So I just went with the high and a low, and that's where we stand. The high was 11,700, or what, yeah, for now that's a 3-foot fence, okay? And it's a black chain link. Have you folks seen any of it?
Nope, I haven't seen it. That was my question is, what is it? It's like what's the material?
It's a black chain link fence, and it's kind of thick, it's coated. It has a top race band and a bottom race band, all the full length of 263 feet. It's pulled tight to the poles, and we have a picture of it, but I don't know.
I did bring the brochure that you had provided.
Yeah, this is from Rick's Fencing, it's just a brochure.
And were both bids for the same fence?
Same fencing, same material.
I thought it was one kind of fence, and the other bid was a different.
No, it's the same fencing.
And as far as the question too, that you had, as far as if that's a pretty sure number, for this type of a project, it's different than like your road construction, that kind of stuff, where you may have more chances of some unknowns coming up. But with this type of fence project, it's pretty cut and dry. So I'm sure there's a slight chance that there could be a change, but it would be very rare that would happen in this type of.
And this is installed.
I'm happy to use our park funds for something like this. Is it impacting any of your other planned projects with the park?
This would not, no.
No.
I'm fine with it.
I make a motion or if we need
Do
to,
you need a motion or consensus?
I think you should make a motion.
I make a motion to use the $5,000 that's been donated or raised and put additional funds up to the $7,100 to make the fence project complete this year.
I'll second that.
Awesome. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. James, you vote? Okay. The
We'll
motion
just
passes
give the fellow
unanimously.
to come and do it, I guess, get us on the schedule.
That's right. Tell them we're good to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next one, discussion regarding city alleyways. Mike, you want to lead us through this one?
Yeah, Dirk Williams on the corner of Third Street and D. He's the big two-story older house. Wants the city to vacate the alley. Just to let you know, I am staunchly against vacating alleys because we have infrastructure running through there. And in the past, I have found out that it's kind of hard to explain to a housewife why you've dug up her vegetable garden in the middle of the night to repair a pipe. So that being said, that was the funny part of that is when you vacate an alley, even though you still have access to it or easement to it, people tend to believe that it belongs to them and they start putting up fences. They start putting in flower gardens, they put in vegetable gardens, they build outdoor garden sheds on it. And it becomes a major problem when at 3 o'clock in the morning, one of those pipes bursts. So first thing you do is you shut the water down to the neighborhood. And then the second thing you do is you try to find somebody to give you permission to go in their backyard with a backhoe. So that is the reasons behind me being staunchly against vacation, because if you vacate it, in my opinion, you lose control of what happens on that property. That being said, during our recent Clean Up the Alleys program, Dirk Williams got a ticket for debris in the alleyway. It consisted of a pile of rocks that he was told to move and refused to do it. Okay, that being said, I had a talk with him and I don't really mind if he uses the portion of the alley because the house that he lives in has no off-street parking. It's just too old and didn't pick up garages at the time. So what I am proposing there is to give him a variance to use that property as long as he maintains it to where our water meter readers can get through there without obstructions. He builds no fences. He builds no sheds. He uses it strictly for storage. And at that point, we still keep control over the alley if I need to get in there and do repairs on a water line, a sewer line, whatever. But then again, it also gives him the ability to have some off-street parking.
I don't have a problem with parking. It sounds like he's already storing rock there.
He is, he's got stuff in there that, in my opinion, isn't really that big of a deal because it's not like piles of brush or you go out to 4th and B and you'll see grass that's this high with old trailers and furniture and that sort of thing back there where we can't hardly even find the water meters. He's at this point is maintaining it. He's keeping the grass cut. He's keeping it free so our guys can get through there. And that pile of rocks, I don't really have a big problem with that pile of rocks because if I need to get through it, I'll move them with backhoe. Take me 10 minutes to move that pile of rocks.
What kind of messages? Take it for that, yeah. Still stored.
Kind of seems strange we did take it for a minute, it's something simple to move, but. We had the instructions for you guys to, so.
So in November 2019, an officer was assigned to work another property where the alleyway was in violation of the right of way. They pointed out that, well, what about that house, which happens to be Mr. Williams? If you remember, our city council wanted to make sure that we treat everybody the same. And so the officer went up there 7:30 at night, not a unreasonable hour, but Mr. Williams thought it was. Told him that you got the alleyway plugged up with debris and stuff needs to be moved. And he came and talked to me. I can't tell you the date, November 2019. I went up there and looked at it and said, well, I didn't even know this was an alleyway. And then looking down every street, okay, I get it. And looked at everything, right? And he showed me paperwork from an attorney and said vacated on it. I wasn't sure what vacated meant so I went back and talked to Vicky. I told him, I said, you may have to eventually move this, let me investigate it. Vicky explained it. We checked the tax or whatever, Marion County, it had not been vacated. I let him know that. I came to council. I said, well, apparently it's been going on for 20 years and yeah, there was more to that, right? So it's been going on for a long time. I came to council, said, hey, sounds like a lot of people haven't been, how about we send this letter out? So we did. And we had 90 days, right? And then COVID hits, we extended it. COVID kept coming, we kept extending it. January of 2021, we made the enforcement action. Mr. Williams wasn't very happy. Told him that an officer was assigned there to work with him. Told him 3 times, work with him to move the stuff out. He told me what was going to do. Anyway, the officer got extended a couple more weeks because I can't remember why. Anyway, eventually we cited it. And that's why he got a citation, because he was in violation of the right of way. It was set for trial, I think in April, somewhere along the line. It's been pushed back to December. So, but he did make an application for vacate the property. And I'm not sure how that works.
I agree with Mike. I don't think we should be vacating any of the alleyways. So, right, when we did the Comcast expansion, we had issues with someone not wanting something ran across the property. And then there was a question of, what, do they have is there an easement? Is there not an easement? It's just easier if we have our alleyways to be able to do that. But I guess one follow-up question I might have though is I've seen a lot of alleyways around the city that are just overgrown, as you mentioned, or obstructed. I mean, who's responsible for maintaining the alleyways? Is it the city?
Homeowner. They're responsible for any noxious weeds that abut their property. So if it's roadway right away out in front, they need to mow it. If it's alley, they need to mow it.
Department heads are correct. We instructed them to tackle the junk, the eyesores, and we commend you for doing that. I don't believe we should be vacating, but I do believe we should be continually going after stuff that doesn't, I mean, if it's not supposed to be there, it's a rock pile, it's an old toilet, whatever, then because they can't pick and choose.
So Mike approached me and said I didn't realize you were talking to the attorney, but talking to Mr. Williams, and they worked out what's explained a compromise. And what I saw is looked like that all the debris that we were talking about would be moved off there. I said the police department's indifferent. We don't write the laws, we enforce the laws. And, you know, and basically with code enforcement, we try to get compliance. back in November of 19, he was telling me about the driveway and he didn't have anywhere to park his car. I said, well, the car's not a problem. You move the car, and I drive it all the time. His van is the only one that parks there, and he moves it. So,
Well, I don't see a problem though with laying a homeowner, if they're having to maintain the darn thing, to be able to park there. I mean, as long as it's not a permanent stored item, or as you said, a shed or a broke down car.
but basically, he's got a lot of debris. There's 6 garbage cans on the the west side. I can't tell if the canoe that's on the sawhorses is on his property or in the alleyway. That's stuff like that that brought the attention.
So if there is an emergency situation where you have to go in with a backhoe on that property and dig it up, are we then gonna be liable for damage to his stuff he's storing there? Do we still have to wake him up at 2 a.m. to have him move his canoe?
We would on a vehicle, yes, if a vehicle was there, but I don't have any problems with the canoe because we can pick the canoe up and move it over. It's, in the rock piles, they said that's a 10-minute job with the backhoe, just scoop it up and find another place in the yard for it. It's the, having to go through fences and that sort of thing that really becomes a difficult situation for us in the middle of the night.
So I just want to say something. If you're in a hurry and it's emergency and you have this rock pile you have to move and now you got to move it out of the way, but you're moving it on his property. What if you damage something when you're dumping the rock pile on his property? We could be liable for whatever it is that you're doing. So, and I was just going to give you a little history on these alleyways. Back in the day, the garages were accessed through the alleyways. So you would come through the alleyway and the house would be facing the street in the doorway or whatever. And then your garage would go through the alley and you'd have your access back here and park here. So the garage area, I haven't looked over there in a long time, but typically you'd have your garage, but you still have your space or your area to pull into your garage. So
just to comment on the specific rock pile, because I've been out there. The garage, it's the rock pile's just south of the one garage that accesses the alleyway. There is no garage on Mr. Williams' property that I'm aware of. So, yeah, it's I was under the impression it wasn't Mr. Williams who put the rocks there, it was the guy who had the garage, but I don't know that for sure. And it's been there for 20 some years. It's gotta be.
So back to the question at hand. So I don't want to see us vacating any alleyways. I think they're important, they're there for a reason. And I think you have consensus on the council on that, unless Robert, you have any different opinion on the alleyway vacating?
No, I do not want the alley vacated.
Okay. Michelle? Okay, so you got clear consensus on that. I completely agree with you there. I am concerned about a Pandora's box of opening up these side agreements though. With, you know, if we do this for this house, do we do it for the next house, for the next house, for the next house? As opposed to, I mean, I don't care if someone parks their car in the evening there as long as it's not long term, but I mean, I don't know where it ends in terms of what an understanding would be or the liability we might take on if we have to move something.
Isn't it by city ordinance that it already has to be parked on a gravel or some sort of rain? You know, can't be in the middle of somebody's yard.
Right.
Has to be approved parking type of pad or.
Yeah, that sounds about right. It has to be something that's
Compacted gravel.
developed for parking.
So, because it's basically a driveway. Is that right? You don't want to see Pandora's box.
So how do you feel about an agreement then to allow him to use that for parking, I guess? Is that parking and storage?
It's just down to parking, which was, I told them, it's falls under the right of way, or city ordinance, the thing we deal with all the time on the streets, right? It's a public
So I mean, it's just like a street, they park the car there and drive away, it's not a big deal. They park there and it stays there for a month. 72 hours, but.
Yeah. So he definitely moves it all the time.
I'm against, I agree. I'm not for that,
Not a written agreement.
not any agreement. It's a city right of way. Unless the city changes their use of that and wants to give it away, sell it, do whatever. I don't think people should be storing stuff there. It'd be no different than if I stored something in the middle of my street.
But if he's parking his car in the evening there, that's fine.
Well, as long as it's not blocking the alley so no one else can.
True. Well, just like in a normal street, right away.
But no, I'm against.
Is there any other reason for anybody else to go down that area?
No.
Fire truck?
Typically not, but we do take access through the alleys to fight fires as a common tactic.
So that's one thing I pointed out to him back in November 19, and the fire hydrants in front of his house. The 2 pointed to me.
And you might be running a hose in it one day.
Yeah.
I, as you heard with my comment with the Pandora's box, I don't want to see us making side agreements. I think that could be a nightmare for the city to try to administer and for law enforcement to try to figure out who's got one, who doesn't have one, what's in scope, what's not in scope.
We already have several nightmares. We're across from the post office is a nightmare. Where the road's supposed to go through that corner house's front yard.
Yes.
So, right, we don't want to be doing any tweaking there.
So I guess what you're hearing from council, at least what I'm hearing is, no, you're not gonna vacate the property. The alleyway needs to stay the alleyways. And we don't want us to have the city enter into any written authorization to use the right of way.
Okay, I'll let him know. That's basically the question I wanted answered tonight. I'm sort of impartial as to which way we go. I was just trying to make a compromise to Mr. Williams to see what we could do for him. But you have any problems with him parking his van? It's the storage of the other things on it that,
The public right of way, as long as you're parking it up against, I don't see an issue with that, as long as it's not sitting there forever. You can't be storing property on there, it needs to be accessible, and fire trucks, et cetera, need to be able to get by stuff. Or police vehicles, who knows?
He needs to move the rock.
Yeah.
okay?
Yeah, so that'll probably not happen until after December.
I'm assuming it's back court.
Yeah, and it's, Juliet is
December 1st.
So before we move on from this topic, though, James, I've heard from you, you're okay with this direction? Michelle? And Robert?
Yes.
Okay, you have a consensus from the city council on what we want to see.
Okay.
Thank you.
And if he points out neighbor down the street has an old abandoned trailer covered with stuff, then we will act on that. Because it's complete credit, so.
I think there was about 5 people who responded to that letter, and some weren't even violating anything. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, if that is all for that, we'll move on to the consent agenda. So I will go ahead and read these titles minus F, F will be struck. A, approval of the May 4th, 2021 Budget Committee meeting minutes. B, approval of the July 2021 check register report. C, resolution number 7192021, a resolution amending compensation ranges for non-represented employees and represented employees and repealing resolution number 7152021. Approval of the 2% incentive pay increase for Mark Y, police officer, for reaching 600 hours of state approved effective August 1st, 2021. E, approval of Smith Gardens request to reserve Rivenus Park, August 13th, 2021, from 9 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. And that is all.
Are we gonna add this last one? Consent agenda. That's our reading.
Yeah,
It's already on.
It's already on there.
That's the third.
Yeah, it's already on.
Yeah.
Mix match.
That's August 13th. This one says August 15th.
That's a Smith Gardens request.
Smith Gardens is for August 13th. from 9 to 5:30 PM. And then there's a family reunion, August 15th at Ribbons Park from 11 to 4:30.
Yeah, that one, that's not on there. Consent agenda. Unless you're saying it's the same. That's not in the 5. This is 11 to 4.
So I'd like to make an amendment, it looks like. Melinda, correct me if I'm wrong. The E should be approval of the family reunion for Goldie Hurley to use Rivinus Park, August 15th from 11 to 4:30 PM. And the Smith Gardens should be, the Smith Gardens request is, that's from the previous,
Yeah.
this was from the previous.
That was my mistake.
No worries.
I missed
Okay, so let me reread E for the consent agenda. Approval of Goldie Hirely, I'm assuming I'm saying that right. Request to reserve Rivinus Park from 11 AM to 4:30 PM on August 15th, 2021 for a family reunion. Does that work as read?
From 11 AM to
4:30 PM. And we will strike out my original reading of the Smith Gardens request.
Motion that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
All right.
I was gonna say before that, I'm here on behalf of the Hubbard Police Officers Association, and we wanted to convey our disagreement or disappointment in letter C on the consent agenda.
Okay. Still stated,
Oh, go ahead.
it still stays in the consent agenda. We didn't pull it out for regular discussion. So could you hold that until we are into the public comment section? I'm assuming that's where that should take place.
You can, only I can explain why it is in here now.
Okay.
And then you can decide if you want to adopt it as it's written or something else.
So let's go ahead.
Okay.
And please explain.
So I was unaware that when the resolution was adopted for the effective July 1, I thought that the 1.63% went across the board to all employees, and that's how the resolution was written. The city was still in negotiations with the union, and that COLA is still up for negotiations. So that COLA should have stayed the same until there was an agreement on that. So that is what this resolution does, is separates that, puts the union representatives back to where they were without the 1.63% COLA. And the other employees are still at the 1.63 that was already given to the employees.
Okay, and this C resolution, the amendment, as you're saying, separates the two to allow the union negotiation to continue.
That's correct.
Council, do you feel like you would like to still keep this in consent agenda? I'll pull it out for a motion to amend.
But this doesn't have the police in here, correct?
The original one does.
This one does as well. It's on the back page. As represented employees, I had to separate them, represented employees and non-represented employees, because we're still in negotiations.
So should be.
I would assume so.
Yes, I'm confused with why the association would be opposed to that. Is
We're opposed to it because we've been given the increase for the past 2 pay periods, and now all of a sudden it's become an issue.
Okay,
Was it given in error?
It was given in error. I was unaware that since the contract ended and we're still in negotiations, and that's something that is negotiated every year or given by the council, so to speak, that I wasn't really authorized to give the 1.63 to the non-union, or to the union representative because we're negotiating.
Okay, so we're not pulling back the 1.63, are we?
We're not taking back what was given to them. And if whatever is agreed upon in the future, if it needs to be retroed back, it will be retroed back.
So they'll continue receiving the 1.63?
No.
not according to this.
No, it
So
goes-
they got it for the last 2 months, and now
No.
we're
No, they,
potentially going to take it away until we get whatever agreement with their association.
they got it for July. And this month, starting this month, they get it for, it goes back to what it was before the 1.63.
And then whatever, when the negotiations start, then they go back and figure out. If it could be more, it could be some, but they get it all right. So. Right.
That was, I was instructed by the attorney to do that.
And as soon as you found out, that's when you brought this to light, talked to the attorney. It's not like we dragged our feet and we found out a week after we gave it to them and we just let it. As soon as
Right,
we found out, we took efforts to correct.
right.
Okay.
That's what we're doing here.
So basically, it's not that they're not gonna get it at all.
They're just not gonna get it now.
They're just not gonna get it now, and then it would be retroactive
I get it,
back to,
but since we are negotiating,
right?
then we should follow.
The advice of the attorney. Bittersweet, it's a bitter pill, but I can understand the logic behind it. Okay, then I would suggest that we keep it in the consent agenda. Okay. Okay, so with that, the consent agenda titles have been read.
Make the motion that we accept the consent agenda with the amendments as read.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, consent agenda passes. With that, appearance of interested citizens. Agenda topic number 13, 12. Do we have anyone? We have so many faces. Yeah.
No, it's just.
Okay, with that, if there's no interested citizens, other city business number 13. Okay, I don't have any additional city business. With adjournment would be the next on the agenda.
We make a motion to adjourn.
All those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all for coming to our fabulous August. It is August, right?
It is still.
They should.